Good evening, everyone, and welcome to True Scary Stories. Tonight's story is called Shadow of the Exorcist. I'm afraid of the dark and take a long time to fall asleep. Every wooden creak or bump in the night puts me on alert. It happens often because our house is over 50 years old. One night when I was a kid, I tried to fall asleep after watching a horror movie. I lay awake half the night, waiting for the sound of footsteps to approach my bedroom door. I had one of those old televisions in my room. Static would build up on the screen. It discharged with a loud crack. After jumping out of bed, I bolted into my parents' room and slept there the rest of the night. I also remember a 3-day period back when I was 17. I started reading the novel The Exorcist. Those 3 nights were my life's strangest. After finishing the first part of the book, I turned off the light and went to sleep around midnight. I lay in bed with the covers pulled over my head, as if they would protect me from demons wanting to possess my soul. Although I wrapped the blankets around me, I left a small hole open so I could breathe fresh air. I tried to fill my head with pleasant thoughts, instead of the images of Reagan's gradual possession described in the book. As I drifted off, a loud wooden creak from the bottom of the staircase woke me. I quieted my breathing and listened. Another step creaked a minute later, this one halfway up the staircase. I continued hearing more creaks until I had the sensation someone was standing at the top, a mere 15 or 20 feet from my bedroom door. I swore if I heard another step, even an inch closer to my room, I was going to scream. I didn't care if I woke the entire house. If I were honest, however, I was too afraid to make a sound. I was glad whatever it was didn't end up making another either. I was about 2/3 the way through the book the following night. Although leery about going to bed, I climbed in and wrapped myself in the covers, again leaving a small opening to breathe. I wasn't able to think pleasant thoughts. Instead, I recalled the night's previous events, interspersing the recollection with pieces of dialogue between the demon inhabiting Reagan and Father Karras. I heard a creak at the bottom of the stairs around midnight. Like the night before, the creaking continued to climb the staircase to its top. I prayed it went no further. The hall's floorboards disregarded my prayers and let out a slow squeak every 30 seconds, each one closer to my bedroom than the one before. Whatever it was now standing at my door. I tried praying again, that my door remained closed this time. It did. However, something started tapping against it, like a pianist playing 4 adjacent keys repeatedly. I huddled up, wrapping the covers even tighter. Although I kept the small opening to breathe, I can't remember if I even took one breath. The tapping stopped after a couple of minutes, and another sound was not made the rest of the night. I wondered if it was all a figment of an imagination possessed by Pazuzu. I completed the book by the 3rd night and decidedly did not want to be alone in the dark. I fished out an old nightlight from my closet before going to bed. I would leave it on all night, not caring how childish it may appear. I counted the clock down to midnight as I tormented myself with a mental recreation of Reagan's exorcism as well as the deaths of Father Karras and Father Marin. To my relief, midnight came and went without incident, and I finally fell asleep. I woke to the tapping at my bedroom door. Like the night before, it soon stopped. I gave a silent thanks to God and was even able to relax. However, I heard the knob turn and the door crawl open. Although I was terrified, I considered it might be a prank. I had described my experiences the last couple of nights to my family over dinner. Maybe my dad or older sister were trying to get a rise out of me. I aligned an eye with my wool cocoon's breathing hole and looked to find nothing in the doorway. I spun my body to face the direction opposite the door and listened for any movement. The floorboard squeaks came closer and closer. A dark shadow produced from my nightlight fell over the blankets. I slowed my breathing and pulled the blanket around my body even tighter as it stood by my bedside. Curling up into the fetal position, I covered up my head with my arms as best I could. I didn't move another muscle after that. I felt the tapping on my ankle. It traveled up my leg, then along the side of my torso. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would burst through my chest. I sweat as the temperature under the covers rose. I wanted to rip them off my head and gulp the cool, fresh air, but sufficed with what little I inhaled through the opening. 2 hands grabbed my head, one at its back and one over my mouth. Unlike the previous nights, I attempted to scream, but its hand muzzled my voice. I twisted and turned to escape its grasp, but couldn't shake its hands loose. Instead, it yanked and twisted my head, causing me to flip onto my back. I felt it press my head into the bed. The mattress compressed as my head inched its way deeper with every passing second. I felt a spring's pressure against its back, thinking for sure I was seconds from my brain being impaled. I felt the presence sit down on me, straddling my body. Its weight pushed out what little air I had in my lungs. It was impossible to inhale anymore. I could feel its face approach mine, coming nose to nose with me. It let out a deep, unholy growl. The putrid smell of its breath caused me to gag. I think I would have preferred to die rather than continue experiencing the terror of the moment. The hands released my head. It popped off the mattress as I let out a scream. The weight of its body was removed from my chest. My dad came running into my room to find out what was wrong. Not knowing what to say, I told him I had had a nightmare. He looked over at my nightlight and asked why I was using it before walking over and turning it off. I'm not sure why, but I sensed whatever it was would never return, and it hasn't. However, I still sleep with a nightlight to this day, and I have made a point to never watch the Exorcist movie.